Avatar is the highest grossing movie of all time, but here's a question. Can you tell me the main character's name and his Na'vi girlfriend? I'm not saying none of you will know. Getting Jake Sully and Neytiri doesn't make you some kind of superfan, but for all that financial success, you'd expect the movie to have made more of a lasting impression on our culture. Like, I know that the princess from Frozen is called Elsa. She's on lunchboxes, she's a Halloween costume, she's on magazines, just like Luke Skywalker still is, and Captain Jack Sparrow. Like Avatar, none of these came from popular books or comics, but they all stuck. For some reason, Avatar hasn't. You have to assume that the movie itself just doesn't have the impact of these other giant blockbusters. Looking at only the money that those other franchises made, you would guess that Avatar would be everywhere, and it's not. So today we're going to look at what other factors made Avatar the biggest commercial hit in the history of the silver screen. The digital marketing campaign for Avatar was multi-layered and the biggest driving force behind the success of the movie. They knew from the start that the thing audiences would be excited about was this world they'd created. The story is nothing particularly original. It's basically a retelling of Pocahontas or Dances with Wolves and other similar ideas, but the geography and wildlife of Pandora is what breathed life into the film. The website had the usual trailers and photos, but it went much further with wallpaper downloads, music, bios of the characters, and scientific tours of the planet. There was also an interactive trailer that allowed you to click on characters and objects to access more information. They involved the blogging community and even had Pandorapedia to add to the rich detail about this planet. There was a wide augmented reality campaign too. Despite this being one of the first major 3D movies, the studio were careful not to sell it hard on this aspect. Instead, by partnering up with Coke Zero and McDonald's, they gave people access to digital worlds through various scannable codes on the product. All of these marketing tactics sound textbook today for launching a major film, but Pandora pioneered a lot of them. With McDonald's, the localized McDonald's websites had a game called Pandora Quest. They did a similar thing with the toy company Mattel, where creatures on cards in their hand would become a living digital creature that could move anywhere on the screen. These huge brand tie-ins were where most of the marketing success came from, and what a lot of the estimated $200 million budget was spent on. You don't get much bigger exposure than with Coke and McDonald's, so it was clearly worth it. This was also supported by plenty of social media chatter, a lot of which was organic, but they also had some clever tactics like a tweet to listen promo for access to the music on Twitter. So, why did this campaign work so well? Because it built excitement about the movie without revealing too much of the plot, and more importantly, just how impressive the visuals were. They knew that if they only talked about the visual impact that James Cameron was working on, people would only go with that in mind. Instead, there was a sense that a very well-realized alien world had been created, but audiences were still shocked at how beautiful the film was. This is what gave it phenomenal stamina at the box office. It wouldn't have worked with one of the big franchises like Star Wars because this is the kind of thing we expect from them. But Avatar had the benefit of being an unknown quantity. After an opening weekend of $77 million, it dropped just 1.8% by the next one and still only 9.4% by the third weekend. On the seventh weekend, they took $31 million. Avatar still holds the record for every weekend from third to seventh. Cameron's other blockbuster giant, Titanic, takes most of the records for the weekends after that. To give you some comparison, the first Avengers movie opened at $207 million, but it dropped 50%, then 46%, then 34% as the weekends continued. By weekend 7, it was at just $11 million. And those numbers are amazing, by the way. It's just that Avatars were insane. Star Wars The Force Awakens was similar, opening big at $248 million, but dropping by about 40% each week. Another interesting question on Avatar is, how big of a factor was the 3D? The price of a ticket was up to double that of a normal movie, typically selling for $15. There's no doubt that this brought them a huge amount of extra revenue, but even if you remove that factor, the second place is still James Cameron's other movie, Titanic. If you halved its worldwide gross of $2.7 billion to give you 2D ticket prices, it would still be the 8th biggest film ever. But all the other films on that list, except Titanic, had a 3D release too, so it's irrelevant. However, it wasn't just the ticket price. It was also the novelty factor of 3D that attracted some people, especially when combined with a big, fully realized world. 3D had mostly been tied up with IMAX since the turn of the millennium. After its popularity in the 50s, it faded. It was actually James Cameron who made the first full-length IMAX 3D feature Ghosts of the Abyss. It was a documentary about the sunken wreckage of the Titanic. But for many audience members, Avatar was their first experience of modern 3D, and when you're there, racing on a flying lizard between floating mountains, it's pretty impressive. There's no official numbers, but it's said that Avatar got a huge amount of repeat audience, people who went to see it more than once. At the end of the day, the Avatar marketing team did what all great product launches do. They got plenty of exposure, generated a wide interest, but still let the product speak for itself. With the sequels being shot as we speak, it's unlikely they'll be able to pull off another campaign like this one, so it'll be interesting to see how they go about it. Want to learn more about business theory and pop culture? Be sure to like and subscribe to be notified of our next segment.